Arrested development happens in the soul of a person when in their childhood there was some form of abuse or something traumatizing that happened to him. Arrested development means that their development was arrested, right? It was imprisoned, and they were no longer able to grow and mature in that area, even though they grew chronologically in that area, in that fracture, they were unable to develop.
The contents on this channel are for learning, insight, and introspection.
Hey, mindful people, you have made your way back to Mind Your Mind with Jess Justify. So you saw the thumbnail. Let's jump right in. Let's talk about it. Arrested development. So arrested development is a psychological term defined as a lack of development or emotional delay that can be caused by a physical or psychological factor, such as trauma, fear, genetic or chromosome disorders, body maturing but mind doesn't, or playing an adult role in the family. So let's dig a little deeper with this first video.
Hello, my name is Angeli. I'm a mental health therapist and a certified life coach, and I want to talk to you today about arrested development. Arrested development happens in the soul of a person when in their childhood there was some form of abuse or something traumatizing that happened to him. Arrested development means that their development was arrested, right? It was imprisoned, and they were no longer able to grow and mature in that area, even though they grew chronologically in that area, in that fracture, they were unable to develop. So there could be many adults, and I'm going to name a couple of symptoms. Now, this does not mean that every adult that has these symptoms has had arrested development in their childhood. These are symptoms that I will be naming. So one of them with arrested development is lack of responsibility, unable to mature, unable to take responsibility for their actions, people who don't like to be committed in relationships for very long, or if they do get married, they get divorced within a couple of weeks or months. They like to throw temper tantrums. These are the people that you would say, you know, why don't you grow up? Why don't you mature? You're so childlike, you know. It could be something like that. Also, you know, maybe adults who have little trinkets or toys on their desk and they like to play with little things. Or, you know, a grown woman who likes to collect dolls or stuffed animals. Unable to maybe do daily functioning, like keep their room organized, keep their house clean, unable to kind of keep things in order sometimes because they struggle with a part of their soul that has been fractured off, and they're unable to mature in certain areas. And so some are very severe and don't know that they just need to heal certain areas of their lives. So if you feel like maybe some of these symptoms resonate with you, maybe you feel stuck, you're unable to move forward, maybe you feel like there is immaturity in your life, you're unable to make decisions, even if they're easy decisions, maybe you lack responsibility, maybe you feel like you can't be committed in certain relationships, you tend to run away from confrontation or confronting daily problems. Now, all of these symptoms don't necessarily mean that you have arrested development, but there can be issues in your childhood, usually under the age of 13, where you are stuck, where you have been fractured, where you have been arrested. So I will make a video giving some kind of help of how you could, you know, grow and mature and move forward in your adult life. Hope this helps.
All right, so this therapist named some symptoms that may indicate arrested development. It may not show in all areas of your life, but can show up in some. So here's another video talking about it.
Development refers to a halt in emotional, mental, or psychological growth. This means an individual may be stuck at a certain stage of development and their behavior, emotional processes, responses, or thought patterns may be more characteristic of a child stage than their actual age.
Mm. So just kind of like a lack of maturity or in certain areas.
In a nutshell, they haven't developed in a way that is more akin to an adult, or whatever their actual age is. You know what I
Right, you're
mean?
in
But
that
like if
process.
you're, 25, 26,
There's
but you
certain
may be,
signs that you should be like, there's certain marks that you should be hitting emotionally,
yeah, and how you think about
intellectually. Yeah, yeah,
things,
yeah.
how you process things, those things should be more mature. They should be more based on your ideals, keeping order of things and being respectful of, all parties, rather than it being very self-centered as a child would.
Word.
So I'm sure you've seen people who fit this explanation, where in certain interactions, someone may show more childlike interactions and a lack of maturity. And in certain areas, they're, just as normal or even above average. But here's another video with more info.
All heard of the show Arrested Development? Have you seen it? It is probably one of the funniest shows I've ever seen. That and 30 Rock and The Office tells you a little bit about my sense of humor. Also, Jason Bateman. Come on. But arrested development is actually a thing. Arrested psychological development, and it's a serious thing, and it develops from trauma, and it's when we cannot mature past the traumatic events. So basically it stunts our emotional maturity. What happens when we get stuck in this state is that the past traumatic event does not feel like it's in the past. It actually feels like it's in the present, and we cannot distinguish past from present. This means that your body is triggered as if the event is happening in present time. So when you find yourself always anxious, always on alert, always hypervigilant, you might be having a response to trauma and experiencing arrested psychological development. As funny as the show is, arrested psychological development is not funny at all. It is actually a trauma response and is actually quite serious.
So she mentioned that some people who go through a traumatic event is mentally stuck there in certain aspects and can feel triggered by it as if it's happening right then and there in the present. So, that's where it can even get a little bit more serious. So let's go to our next video.
I've been thinking a lot about lately is that a lot of men never heal from their first heartbreak. We get hurt early on, and instead of healing from it and processing it, we gravitate to what is accessible to us, which is misogyny. And we create all these harmful narratives about women based off this one early experience, which we hold on to for our entire lives. And they inform all of our subsequent relationships with women. I had my first heartbreak when I was 14. I was in 8th grade, and I got dumped for my best friend. And it was fucking horrific. And I never got over that. And I had a lot of shame about that for a long time because as a society, we don't value the experiences of our young people. We just tell them to get over it. It's not a big deal. You're young. Doesn't matter. And those things do matter because hurt people hurt people. We need to do a lot better as a society caring for and educating our young people, and especially the emotional and relational lives of young men.
So this video actually reminded me of a video I did some time ago called Hurt People, Hurt People. It mentioned Nick Cannon and other men on his panel who stated that in high school, they chose after a heartbreak to be the bad guy rather than the nice guy. So he basically said, rather than healing and processing from their heartbreak, some men are some men are developing mentally arrested and holds on to the harmful narratives about women, which leads on to hurting people. But he brought up a thought to teach our youth how to process pain and hurt. Identifying is the first step. So I thought that was a great suggestion about teaching our youth how to get through their hurt and their pain. So this last video brings up so many great points in regards to Arrested Development.
Found, and I love the way other like adjectives are coming out for leader. Like you said, that leaders are problem solvers, that they're rescuers, right? And a lot of times that's how leaders are created. They're created in the midst of that fire, that crucible, that controversy, and then they emerge as the one that really works to solve that problem. Everyone else is looking at the other person. What are you going to do? And the leader steps forward. So I think that's beautiful. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter if a man or woman does it. Does a problem have a gender? Is the problem male or female? Then why does the solution need to be male or female if that's the case? And I think that point you brought up is so beautiful. So, and you said this in your video, I thought this is very profound. When you talked about modern women versus modern men, right? And you asked the question, are modern women too masculine, or are modern men too immature, right? So my question is, like, what do you feel is preventing modern men from becoming better leaders in the home and in the community, and really what's the source of that immaturity?
It's a symptom. It's arrested development. It is when you have, I said in that video that being Black in this country is trauma within itself. You have poverty, abuse, neglect, and many of those other aspects that is common to the inner city Black youth. You're gonna have trauma. People deal with it in different ways, male and female, but then we see a pattern of how women deal with it typically, and then how men deal with it typically, right? So when you see a man going through it, what is the result of that? Many a times it is arrested development. It happens to both of them. But what does that look like for a man all grown up? In layman's terms, man-child. This is a failure to launch person. This is a person who has not been able to really adult quite well. And so if he's coupled with a woman or even married, most likely that woman, if she's more mature, she's going to be taking on more of the responsibilities because he doesn't know what to do, or he doesn't respond, he doesn't react effectively or appropriately, because he had to be an adult when he was a child. He had to grow up too fast. And so now that he's actually adult, there were so many milestones that he missed. His logic is thrown off when it comes to doing the right thing as adult. Like he was a street smart kid, and now that he's all grown up, he can't figure it out. And so now you have the woman that's like, why didn't you pay this bill? Or why didn't you do this? I asked you to do this a week ago. Why didn't you do that? And so here's the response to that is, oh, you are being too masculine. But really what she's doing, she's parenting him. She's being his mother. So in fact, she's not being masculine, she's being more motherly, because apparently his mother did not do her job or finish her job. And that may be because she had arrested development. She may have had to work all the time, but regardless of the reason why, she wasn't there. And he had to take on more than what he should. And now he's a man-child, and his wife or girlfriend is now treating him like her son.
All right. So the women brought up traumas that occur even through upbringing. whether it was having to grow up before your time, poverty, abuse, and so on. And, you know, it talks about that. And when I think about Arrested Development, I'm thinking no one wants to stay stagnant. So if you can heal from that, why not try to seek whatever help you need in that regard? Because sometimes you can see it kind of, if you're being honest with yourself, show up in different scenarios. And then even the way you resolve that scenario, it says a lot of where you probably was mentally, you know, stagnant, where you were arrested at, and how you approach that situation. So I do have a mindful moment. So these are actually key steps to overcoming arrested development. And you can find this on kindnesscompassionandcoaching.com. kindnesscompassionandcoaching.com. And it gives some key steps on overcoming arrested development. So let's get into that. All right, so here are some key steps to overcoming arrested development. So you can go on the website for more elaboration, but I'm just going to keep it to like bullet form. So it says, number 1, acknowledge the issue. Then it says, number 2, seek professional support. Number 3, embrace self-care practices. Number 4, establish healthy boundaries. Number 5, cultivate self-compassion. Number 6, nurture authenticity. Number 7, surround yourself with supportive people. So just remember, you either control your mind or it controls you. Until next time.